despite High Court verdict barring him from holding himself as MP.
I respect the law. I'm still your member of parliament.
We have the latest as the NDC files an appeal with a show of force in the Asin North constituency, where they have tonight launched a charm offensive to win hearts and minds.
And the party wants to send a very clear signal that both legally and politically will fight this battle to its logical conclusion.
This is Top Story with Evans Mensah.
And Top Story is always brought to you by Gas and Cement. The Nation Builder is also brought to you by Vodafone. Together we can. He was barred last week from holding himself out as Member of Parliament for Asin North. Today, James Jachikwesing is defiant, declaring he is still the MP for the area. Amidst tears, he took his case to his constituents, backed by the full weight of the opposition NDC. The party today filed a notice of appeal in the Cape Coast High Court. According to the lawyers, the decision of the court was not based on settled laws and were in clear violation of articles in the 1992 Constitution. Now, they want the Court of Appeal to overturn the decision of the Cape Coast High Court. Well, today, the MP himself was on the ground in his constituency, making a case and assuring his constituents that he's going nowhere.
Canada 40 years plus, I respect the law. I'm still your member of parliament. I'm still your member of parliament.
Joining me on the telephone line right now is my colleague Kojo Nyako, who has been following this story for us. Kojo, give us a sense. You followed him and the party executive into the constituency. We're learning of that when he was making his case to this constituents. At the point he became emotional and had to shed tears. Give us a context. Why? What happened? What triggered this?
Well, so after the fanfare and all of that brass band music, he was met at the entrance of the town. The supporters, milled through the city, the community, and then first they went to the chief's palace, and it was where he spoke, and he started saying that he's gone on some sojourn in Canada for 40 years. He knows the law. He's acquired a lot. So the essence of he contesting that particular seat is to help the people. So it got to a point that he said that it's the same New Patriotic Party people that frustrated Nkrumah when Nkrumah wanted to do something for the people of Ghana. And so he sees Nkrumah in himself. And so he understands the frustration he's going, but it's painful that when someone has devoted his time, his resources to help the people, some people would want to frustrate him like that, but he knows the law.
Maybe no pass a bit in him. Here the best is your my own. Now, maybe we'll be crying on the best of the Bremo. And the other thing I'm with the MBF family deal. And your mother won't number by Muntin and by. Sure. And here we are making kind of case. And Morocco money court seminar and a chairman church, national chairman church, every chairman was some for Canadian. Be anywhere able. May I can't cry, and I'm the procrastination. That's all the cry, Juma, Bibi, and also. I'm not afraid of anybody. Yanko Pompen, I'm sure. I'm tomorrow, sending a kind of Opa, dear. Come and come up as a best save Ghana. South of we are at Titi, and I am for 2 prison. Already history. So already history. Come on, the prison Cape Coast in the or a prime minister. Moshe South Africa, Nelson Mandela.
So that is the embattled member of parliament, Mr. Kwesing, comparing himself to Dr. Kwame Nkrumah and Nelson Mandela, making the argument that both gentlemen wanted to bring change, but they were persecuted, and he believes that's, in essence, is what is happening to him also right now, as he made his case before the chiefs and people of Asin North. I want to still go back to my colleague, Kojo Nyako. Kojo, so we heard earlier that he had been invited by the Criminal Investigations Department, and we're told that possibly criminal investigations had been opened against him. You have some clarity on this from the party.
Come again.
I'm saying that we heard earlier that he had been invited by the CID and that criminal investigations may have been instituted against him. You got some clarity today from the NDC.
Well, so Joshua Kamba, the NDC national organizer, indicates that he's been with the embattled Asin North MP, and at no point has he been invited. He said it categorically. At no point has it been invited by the CID or any kind of investigation that he's been invited by the CID to come and then be interrogated. And so we spoke with Joshua Kamba.
His people were yearning to see him, and this is not organized, but his people had actually pleaded that he should come around so that they will see him. There are social media comments that he's been arrested, the police is looking for him, and all that. So he's come actually to tell his people that he's well and safe, and that he will go through the court processes, and we are sure of victory. We are sure that the good God will raise his hands, and justice will be done to the NDC and the people of Asin North.
I told that the CID has extended an invitation to him. Once you have filed the appeals processes, would you still avail, will he still avail himself to the CID investigation? I
doubt if there's a case like that. He is not aware of anybody inviting him. I have asked him, I have spoken to him. I have been within the central region for the past 4 days. And I have found out from the police whether there's such a report. We haven't heard it. So we are yet to see. I'm sure it's part of the propaganda of our people to trigger some kind of actions. Or our opponent wants to make their people more happier. Because there's a video recording of Kennedy Ajapon actually threatening that when he becomes the MP, in 2 months or so, we'll make sure that he's removed as MP. So it's part of the political game that the MPP is playing.
So this seems like you are psyching them up, the people, or reassuring them. What exactly are you doing?
I'm sure they are psyching themselves. But I just told you earlier that they themselves invited us. They have said that they have heard that he's coming to Cape Coast to file, and that they still recognize the effort and the kind of things he's doing for the constituency, and that they are waiting for us. And so we couldn't go back, but we have to continue to this place. Hence, we are also here. I'm sure when you got information that we're proceeding here, you join us to this place. So that's just about it. We came here at the invitation of the constituents, and that they are behind him. So that's what we're here.
My final question. So as we saw Mr. Kwesi speaking, he was shedding tears in the midst of speaking and all of that. What do you make of all of these? I mean, he seems to be going through a lot.
They should tell you how wicked the MPP is. They should tell you how wicked the MPP is. You have heard part of his statement. He's saying that he had made appeal to President Mahama because he knew President Mahama was winning the election, and that Asin North had been cut off. I worked here. When I became the national organizer, I pinched camp here. You might not know. I worked here. This is a community that is a virus community.
Kojo, how did the community receive him when he finally showed up today?
It was an organized procession, brass band, and so I could count up to about 300. They met him at the entrance. So it was a convoy, about 7 cars, including the national chairman of the NDC, the national vice, Madam Sharia Ite, Sami Jemfi, regional executive of the NDC, as well as other constituents. So we also even saw Buja Jemfi all the way from the Ashanti region and some executive from the Bronga Hafo region. And so they were in a convoy. They were met at the entrance of the community. Then they ushered them into the community. There was they paraded through the principal street of the community before they finally ended at the Omahine's Palace. After the Omahine's Palace, there was a gathering, and so they had to take turns to address the people there. So we have been speaking with some of the residents.
Kojo, thank you very much for that. On the telephone line with me is the NDC communications officer, Mr. Sami Jemfi, a lawyer himself. Also joining me is a national youth organizer of the NPP, Henry Nana Boachi, a lawyer himself. Thank you, gentlemen, for the time here on Top Story.
Thanks for having me.
Mr. Jemfi, let me start with you. So you filed the official processes today to appeal the verdict of the High Court last week. I wonder whether you also filed the stay of execution?
The stay of execution has not been filed yet, but I can confirm to you that it will be filed in the course of this week. As we have indicated, the decision of the trial courts annulling the 2020 parliamentary elections held in Ascent North is unlawful and a travesty of justice that we will not allow to stand. And that is why, to start with, we filed an appeal to challenge the decision. And we'll be following that up with an application for stay of execution in the Court of Appeal in the course of this week.
Mr. Boache, we heard today from Mr. Jachi, the MP, declaring in his constituency that I am still your member of parliament. Is that a position you share in the absence of a stay?
Thank you very much, Evans, and good evening for having me. We have just been served with the appeal. It was filed in the morning, so our team of lawyers are critically, assessing it, and certainly we are going to respond. But what is more surprising is my colleague and friend Sami just confirmed that they have not filed any stay of execution, and clearly he knows that the moment you file an appeal, it does not operate or it does not act as a stay of execution. So I'm even surprised how the MP could still hold himself up with such boldness and declaring that he's still the MP when indeed a court of competent jurisdiction last week in a 64-page judgment read by Justice Kwesi Boache said that he should not hold himself up as an MP. So if you file an appeal, you have not even filed a stay of execution. And then you have the MP who clearly act contemptuously. Frankly speaking, this is an act of contempt. And I'm very sure that we are also going to go into it in the coming days. But yes, we have been served with the appeal, and then we are going to respond accordingly in the coming days.
Mr. Jemfi, you agree this is contemptuous?
Not at all. I've indicated to you that we filed a notice of appeal, and we'll be following that up with an application for stay of execution. And in that context, it stands to reason that the decision the people of Ascent North made on 7 December 2020 still stands, pending the determination of the appeal in the Court of Appeal. For me, what is important are the grounds of the appeal, which borders on fundamental issues of law that we would want the media and the nation at large to follow keenly, because this is a matter that affects not only those of us in Ghana today, but even Ghanaians in the diaspora. And we would want our, superior courts to interpret the law in a way that ensures that justice is done. And so that is why, for example, we have said that we are challenging the decision of the trial court because, number one, the trial judge lacked jurisdiction to enforce and interpret Article 94(2)(a) of the 1992 Constitution like he purported to do. He has no such jurisdiction under the Constitution. That job falls within the exclusive jurisdiction of the Supreme Court of Ghana under Article 130 of the 1992 Constitution. So we are inviting the Court of Appeal to quash the decision on that basis. Secondly, overturn the decision on that basis. Secondly, we have argued that the trial judge sought to determine this case in accordance with foreign law, in this case, Canadian law. And if you look at the Section 1, Subsection 2 of the Evidence Act of Ghana, issues of foreign law are questions of fact, which the Supreme Court, has said can only be determined at the trial stage through the adduction of evidence, especially expert evidence. In this case, there was no evidence before the court. He resorted, or if you like, plagiarized some writings from Wikipedia and sought to determine issues of foreign law on his own as a judge when he has no such powers under the Evidence Act of this country. He didn't even allow the matter to go for trial. He didn't even allow for any adduction of evidence or any expert witness to be called in accordance with law. So clearly, he did not determine that issue in accordance with law. Thirdly, Evans, we are saying that the decision of the trial judge to annul the election on grounds that Honorable Kwesi was not qualified as at the time of nomination violates Section 21D of the Representation of People's Law, PNDC Law 284, which says that a high court can only annul a parliamentary election if the candidate was not qualified as at the time of election, not nomination. So the judge got that wrong. And we are also saying that, assuming without admitting that the judge was even right, and that Honorable Kwesi had to meet the eligibility criteria at the time of nomination, assuming without admitting that is incorrect, the facts which were before the trial judge showed clearly that he met the eligibility criteria at the time of the nomination period. What the trial judge got wrong was that he confused nomination days with nomination period. The Supreme Court, in the case of this party, Electoral Commission, Pakwesi Indium as interested party, has said that nomination days is a totally different thing from nomination period, and that the nomination period goes beyond the nomination days, which is just the period between when candidates are supposed to pick forms and submit same. And that the nomination period includes the period that the EC as an administrative body uses to assess the nomination form submitted by candidates. In this case, the facts clearly showed that upon a petition by some concerned youth of Ascent North, the EC launched an inquiry into the issue of the eligibility of the Honorable MP and established that he was qualified. At the time that decision was being made, the Honorable MP had received his certificate of renunciation of his Canadian citizenship. So if the trial judge had construed nomination period properly in accordance with a decided Supreme Court case that he is bound to comply with under Article 129, Clause 3 of the 1992 Constitution, he would have realized that even if Honorable Kwesi was supposed to have met the eligibility criteria as at the time of nomination, he had clearly done so. So no matter how you look at this issue, you cannot but come to the conclusion that the decision of the Cape Coast Court on this election petition matter is a travesty of justice that has violated not just the 1992 Constitution, but several laws of this country, and should not be allowed to stand. And we look forward to having our day in the Court of Appeal.
Mr. Boache, now we know the details and the grounds of the MPP's appeal. You've just had them. Your reaction?
Frankly, the NDC can choose to dance around the law. The critical matter here is that, and Evans, I have a copy of the certificate of renunciation of Canadian citizenship right before me here, that of James Jachakwesi, and it states, this is to certify that the person named above has formally renounced his Canadian citizenship. and seizes Canadians and pursuant to the Citizenship Act will cease to be a citizen on 26th of November 2020. On 26th of November 2020. Now, Mr. Kwesi was asked, and he made a statutory declaration. He swore an oath at the time that he was filing his nomination between 5th to 9th. He swore an oath that he is only a Ghanaian and he doesn't owe any allegiance to any other country. You see, these are the primary issues. The NDC can choose to dance around the law and they can choose to play their own music to their own ears. But this is the pivot of the entire matter. The matter is that at the time that you made the statutory declaration that you owe no allegiance to any other country, it was a blatant lie because that was within the month of October, 5th to 9th. And then you became or you renounced your citizenship, the Canadian citizenship, on the 26th of November 2020. So these are the primary issues. So you can choose to dance around it. And Evans, I said something earlier that you see, Mr. Jachikwesin for the entire 7 months only came to court twice. Number two, the High Court is a competent court of jurisdiction. The High Court in its judgment said that you are no more the MP. Don't hold yourself as an MP. And you have my brother on the other line, who is a lawyer, who is supposed to guide this man very well, who is supposed to make sure that his utterances do not offend the law. And you play a tape, and the man is saying that, hey, you know what, to hell with the judgment you gave last week. I am still the MP. And my brother Sammy is condoning this.
Is the MPP going to pursue a contempt charge case against him?
We are, clearly. We are. This is a clearly contemptuous act. Clearly contemptuous act.
Evans.
You have
Sammy, just a second.
And again, the communications officer, Sami Jemfi, has said that they have not even filed any stay of execution. And this man walks on the street of Asen Breku, and he's telling his people that, you know what, I am still the MP. Don't worry. To hell with the judgment. And you see, he who goes to equity must come in clean hands. You are going to seek justice or purported justice. You are saying that it's a travesty of justice. But meanwhile, you are guiding and guarding the former MP to disregard the judgment of the court. You are going to court, Evans, and then you are telling the court that, no, you know what, you have suffered some injustice, purported injustice at the High Court. Yet,
Evans,
you are still
just a second, I'll come to you.
Misdirecting the MP to tell the whole world that I will not comply with the orders of the High Court. But rather, I will still hold myself up as an MP.
Yeah, Mr. Bachi, just a second. Yes, Mr. Jemfi.
Yes. You see, the kind of things Nana B is talking about here are his own creations. The Honorable Member of Parliament has not said anywhere that to hell with the courts. He has not said anywhere that he doesn't respect.
So, but Evans, you just played the tape. When the man just said that I'm still the MP.
If I can land, what he has stated is his personal opinion, and his personal opinion is that he still remains the validly elected Member of Parliament for Asen North. During the hearing of the 2012 election petition, was the MPP not saying or telling Ghanaians at the time that they believe that candidate Akufo-Addo was a validly elected president?
The court had not
the
ruled
reason
yet.
why
This is comparing apples and oranges.
So that is their opinion. If the Member of Parliament goes beyond this expression of opinion and holds himself out as a Member of Parliament, for example, by going to Parliament and participating in parliamentary proceedings without any processes like stay of execution having been filed, then you can talk about contempt.
So he's not been to Parliament since last week, right?
I disagree with the judge. I still think I'm the validly elected Member of Parliament. Are you saying that he's not entitled to hold that opinion?
Just for clarity, he's not been to Parliament since last week. Sammy, just a quick clarity, just a one. Quickly. He's not been to Parliament since last week, right?
Hello?
He's not been to Parliament since the verdict, has he?
I'm not aware of that he has been to Parliament or has sought to hold himself out as a Member of Parliament. No, he's a law-abiding citizen, and he has indicated that he will use the laws of this country to challenge the decision of the trial court, which he deems as a travesty of justice. So we respect that. And pending the filing of a stay of execution and an order for stay of execution, he will respect the decision. But he has the right to say that even though the trial court says that I was not validly elected, I disagree. I think that I was validly elected as a member of parliament, and nobody can take that away from me. And the second point I'm making is that the document Nana D read from is a document which is called a renunciation of citizenship. Now, you don't read something on a certificate of renunciation of citizenship and apply it to an issue about renunciation of allegiance. Because whereas it may be the case that under Canadian law, one requires a certificate of renunciation in order for that person to renounce his citizenship, the same cannot be said about allegiance because citizenship and allegiance are different. And again, the trial judge doesn't have the power under the Evidence Act of this country to rely on any certificate or any writing on any certificate to determine foreign law. The Supreme Court has said that the only way you can determine foreign law, which is a question of fact, is by way of expert evidence.
Mr. Jemfi.
Which expert evidence was adduced before this trial judge on the basis of which he made those determinations?
Mr. Jemfi.
So let's not prejudge the appeal which has been filed. I am only, by way of educating the public, reiterating and explaining to you what the grounds of appeal are. If they have issues, they can indicate their opposition in their reply.
Yeah, Mr. Jemfi, I'm grateful that you joined me. Mr. Bachi also. Mr. Jemfi?
Inside the court against him.
Hello, Iman.
And it's so shameful, and stop that.
Mr. Jemfi,
can I have my point? The court has not disrespected the court in any way.
Okay.
Those are his words, not the words of the member
Thank
of
you, Mr. Jemfi. Mr. Bachi, 30 seconds.
Yes, Evans, first of all, I mean, he sought to rely on the 2012 presidential elections where we're saying that yes, Nana Dankwa Akufo-Addo was validly elected. Look, after the judgment, Nana Addo himself said that he respects the decision of the court. So that comparison is just comparing apples and oranges. I mean, that is misplaced. So that is just it.
Okay, gentlemen, thank you very much for your time on Top Story. That's all time will allow us. I'm pretty sure the merits of this will be before the court very soon, as the appeal has now been filed.
My network is really killing me. I have to pay my uncle's workers via mobile money, but the charges alone, it's about